Every single piece that you see in this exhibition incorporates either clothing or materials that the folks who are inside either gave to me through their family members and loved ones who are outside, or that I collected from formerly incarcerated people. I think artwork is one of the most powerful ways to highlight historically where we have been as a society, but update that into a contemporary context. And I think drawing some of those parallels out using visual language allows people to see or experience this information in a new way that can potentially open up the possibility of a different belief system. I basically went through and recreated the memories of their homes, mainly focusing on chairs and these kind of solitary, empty objects that for me have this kind of presence of like something that has been worn, but also simultaneously convey the absence of the figure, the absence of the body. And so they're an elegy for people who have been basically disappeared by the carceral system of the United States. It's such like a labor-intensive, repetitive process, and it begins to kind of not just riff or work through some of those elements of craft and quilting in America, but it begins to connect it with this kind of hidden system of labor that is also in the carceral system itself. Their memories of homes and the things that it's depicting is updating the quilt or challenging the notions of this historical understanding of quilting into a contemporary context and how that translates into mass incarceration. One of the materials that I used in this for the tabletop, these are actually browns from inside of prison, and so browns are what people are given for recreational wear. And this pair of shorts is actually my old pair of shorts from when I was in Camp Hill in Pennsylvania serving a state sentence. The crazy quilt is actually really interesting, and it has a nice connection to my personal history in that it was a kind of style or motif that originates from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from, where I have generations of family who have quilted and where I was ultimately sent to federal prison for 6 years from. You know, if I created something that was this explicit representation of incarceration, it would be so grotesque that it would be off-putting, and I feel like viewers and people wouldn't actually come into the work. That's what's really important for me, is like figuring out how to use materials and aesthetic beauty, like how to bring people in through beauty so that they enter the work, and once they enter, they can be kind of confronted with or challenged by some of these other elements that upon first glance aren't necessarily seen. Like so much in our society and the way that we kind of function and exist are through these like very surface presentations or surface understandings of what something is or who someone is. And so when you have someone who's in prison, it's very easy to get like this stereotypical understanding of who that person is. And so, you know, using beauty complicates that notion in that even the people who are in prison are still experiencing beauty. Like there's still like so much love and joy that's in prison as well. Like that sense of love, that sense of community and belonging. And so the issue isn't just negative, and when it's framed in a negative context over and over and over, it ends up just reiterating this negative view to just open up our understanding of what it means to be incarcerated. At the end of the day, we're all still people, right? Whether we're in prison or not, and we're all coming home and we're all a part of this society. Even though you can't see us, this is just a way to visually reintegrate people back into the community, even though it's talking about these broader systems and structures that are incredibly negative and damaging to a lot of people in prison. You could trace this back the whole way to when I was in prison, and I wasn't necessarily at the time consciously trying to create something that would be aesthetically beautiful in that sense. I was more trying to capture an experience of the outside world as viewed from inside of prison. Being deprived of beauty for so long and color, I mean, prison in general is this incredibly just drab environment where everything is concrete and steel, and I mean, I wasn't let outside for an entire year. I didn't see sunlight or daylight or grass or trees or anything like that. I wasn't always thinking about it, but it was something that I didn't have access to, and so I needed to create that in order to experience it. You know, ultimately what the show is about, or you know, what I hope it's able to convey and capture, is that, you know, one of the most powerful ways to combat the disposability of people that exists within our society is to make visible not just the people and communities that it's impacting, but also the systems that are facilitating all of this kind of oppression and despair across the country. And I think one of the most powerful ways to do that is to utilize art to make that visible, to connect with audiences, and hopefully create a form of empathy